All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You are here with Tom and George. Hello, George. Good. Good. Everybody, let us know if you can hear me, if you can hear George, if you can see us, if all systems are operating here. Let us know. Let us know. In addition to that, if everybody would be so kind. Button doesn't work anymore. What happened? I smashed the like button. If you guys could do us a huge favor, we got 6 likes. We're going for 100 likes. Do us a favor, hit the like button. I don't know why my button doesn't work anymore. It's because I don't know how to use this thing. All right, so let's talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about Bitcoin today. We're going to talk about a new price target that I have. George, you can give a new price target if you want. And we're going to talk about what the Bitcoin miners did this week. And I think things have been a little tricky because we're also going to look at what the Bitcoin miners have done year to date. We're going to see what's ahead in the short term, what's ahead in the long term. All the Bitcoin miners have put out their December operational reports. So I got a quick summary of that. We can go through all that and see how everybody did. Couple of surprises, couple of things that we thought would happen and they did happen. And so a lot of stuff, and a lot of other news. We got Silk Road news. We got all kinds of, as usual, we got all kinds of noise surrounding Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And George, I do have an XRP article as well. So we'll get to that later. There is chaos. The market is chaos. The market got I just listed all that out and forgot the number one thing that affected the market today, the jobs report. So we're definitely going to talk about that, and I'll give you a brief preview. The jobs report is stupid in my opinion, and the market crashed on the jobs report. I just don't understand how the market still reacts in this manner and fashion to the job report. Last year, when they do their reconciliation, they were off by almost 1 million jobs. But yet, they come out with their monthly job report, and everybody in the market has a massive reaction to it every single time. It is the most ridiculous manipulation of all time, in my opinion. None of this is financial advice. Let me know what you guys think of the jobs report in the chat. Actually, I'm going to do a poll. Admin, I'm going to see if I can find a way to get... I don't know why there's no closed caption. Give me a minute and I'll see if I can make that happen. All right, George, can you go for a minute? And I'm going to just try and see if I can find a way to turn that on. I'll be back in a flash. We can't hear George. That's what somebody just said. Go ahead, talk, George. Let me see. Hold on. All right. Okay. Such fun. I have to leave the room again. They probably still can't hear you. Okay, everybody, my apologies. I'll be back in 10 seconds. I got to get tech support to get George's microphone going. I should know how to do this by now. I just don't. So that's on me. I'll be right back.
Hey, what's up, guys? Remember to smash that like button. We should have sound. George testing. And I figured out the problem. There we go.
This is the funniest picture I've ever seen in my
Problem
life.
solved.
Okay.
So I guess everybody can hear me now, Tom.
All right, that was strike 2. Now I can't see you. What is going on?
They don't need to see me as long as they can hear me, Tom.
They need to
That's
see
all
you.
that matters.
People need to see George. Madness.
Madness. You know how to fix that, right?
Trying.
Input to your mic, bro. I'm sorry. I can't hear George, but now I can't see. I can hear George, but I can't see him. Okay,
So
George,
I guess we get one. We get one or the other. No, this is strike 3. It's strike 3.
Don't do it. It's okay. Who cares?
Are you sure?
I'm just picking my nose, guys.
Oh, great. Well, listen, George is here with us. I don't know why you can't see him because I really do need to remember that. Every time this happens, they show me how to do it, and I never remember. So, listen, I'm good at some things and not so good at others.
I am shocked that Bitcoin is at 94,915 right now, by the way.
You're shocked at that it's that high or that it's that low?
It's that high. I thought this DOJ thing would take it out.
Oh, so yeah, that's something we definitely got to talk about. And then I got an article that has a really good counterpoint as to why it really shouldn't be a big hit to Bitcoin. And what we're talking about is, well, let's go to the article. And Edmund, if you're out there, what I'm told is you can turn on closed caption on your device. We have it set, but there are times that on a live stream it doesn't work. So if you turn it on your device, you should see it. But if you don't see it, that means it's just not working because it's a live stream. Okay, that's all the housekeeping out of the way. I'm gonna get tech support again. Can't take it without George. I can't go without seeing your face, George.
Oh, come on now, Tom, please.
All right, we got 43 likes. If everybody can do us a favor, my like button doesn't work. If you could hit the like button, it helps the live stream in real time, big time. So let's get people here because we really do have a lot to talk about despite my series of technical difficulties. So let's...
Big day for Trump today too, Tom.
Yes, we had political news, as we seem to always have.
Are we going to talk about the fires in LA too, or no? Will that affect the market at all?
I mean, I don't know that it's having an effect on the market. It's a disaster. It's a disaster that thoughts and prayers go out to the people in that region because that is like something we have not seen. So,
Midway.
Midway, thank you very much. Thank you for the super chat. Thanks for being a member. And Midway said, thank you for all your streams this past year. I found your analysis very helpful, and I was able to make a lot of money from Bitcoin mining stocks in 2024, especially Iron and BitDeer, but also Cleanspark, Cypher, and Bitfarms. So congratulations, Midway. I'm glad you were able to trade throughout the year and make money. Some of those were just straight up on the year and had good years. Others, you know, you kind of had to swing trade them in 2024. I do believe 2025 is going to be different than that. I think this is the year of the Bitcoin miner. And this week, I think you're going to see wasn't as bad as we think. And this year, I think, is heading in the right direction. But thank you again, Midway. Much appreciated.
Sour Melon said, Tom, tell us what your target is. Don't leave us hanging.
Okay, so I'll make it official. And I'll tell you. So before I tell you my price target, I'm already doing an analysis to see if I want to I'm raising it, and I might raise it one more time before this is all over. But I came into this about a year and a half ago saying I think we're going to get to $150,000 at the peak of the bull market. I am now moving that officially. And again, my price target nor anything we say is financial advice, but for fun, I now believe we're going to get to 175,000 in this bull market in 2025. And I think it'll be the third quarter of 2025. I think, you know, the last bull market, we had a double top with a drastic pullback in the middle. So I do still think we're going to have a double top, the second one being higher than the first one. I think we'll have a pullback, but I don't think we're going to have, we had a 50 or 55% pullback in the summer of 2021. I don't see that. That's not what the environment is right now, in my opinion. So I think we're going to end up going higher than I originally anticipated. So I'm saying 175,000. Got a target, George?
I don't even know what to think. The biggest thing I said was before the end of this month, I think we'll see a run. I think from now until then, it's going to be crazy, especially with the stock market for these miners, Bitcoin miners.
I'm going to do a poll right now, and we'll see what people think. And then we'll revisit this later as more people join us. Thank you. We're at 61 likes. If you guys could please help us by hitting the like button if you just got here or if you haven't hit it yet. It does make a gigantic difference.
But I do think short term, I really think we might see the 80s.
So you're calling for a short-term pullback?
Yes.
Ten more seconds and I'll be done with this little...
Short-term pullback time.
Okay, so here's the poll. Is my price target high? Is it low? Or is it correct? Do you guys agree with it? So your choices are 175 is too high, 175 is too low, or you agree 175 sounds about right. And obviously, you know, if you think it's going to 180, then you agree with 175, plus or minus within a reasonable margin of error. In the meantime, so that's my... I don't want to say long-term outlook because that is we're in 2025 now, believe it or not. And that's my 2025 price target. So this is the year. And I do believe for as good as Bitcoin's going to do, the Bitcoin miners are going to do better this year. I'm going to show you what we did in 2023, what we did in 2024, and then we'll talk about what I think is going to happen in 2025. 2024 was a very rough year. A lot of you guys know that. You bought, I know we have all different types of people here, day traders, swing traders. I know, you know, some people buy and hold, some people buy and hold and do covered call options to make some money along the way. There's a million different ways to do this. And we're following 12 companies. So, not all of them were the same. In fact, they were dramatically different results in 2024. We had 6 Bitcoin miners that beat Bitcoin in 2024, I believe, and six that were, I believe, we'll go check this chart out, 6 that were down on the year. So, and I know in last place in 2024 was Bitfarms. In second last place in 2024, I believe, was Riot. But we'll take, let me stop guessing.
What are you doing guessing?
I got the chart. Let's just look at the chart. $2024. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Bitcoin miners down in a year that Bitcoin was up 122%. So that is very poor performance. But I'm going to show 2 other things that I think put it in a little better perspective. And I'm going to show you the chart that I am now paying the most attention to. I think out of the 3, it's the most meaningful. So you can see, Core Scientific was up 150% at one end of the spectrum. And that does not include MicroStrategy, which was up over 300%. So that was double this. Now, they're not a Bitcoin miner, but they are clearly a play on Bitcoin. That represents 99% of their market cap is the Bitcoin portion of what they do. That's who they are now. And then you've got a company like Bitfarms that was down almost 50% on the year. That's a disaster. In the middle of a Bitcoin bull market run, to have 12-month period where you're down 49%, or even Hive at 37%, Riot at 34%, Bit Digital at 31%, Marathon, which is the largest company by far, at down 29%. Cleanspark's the second largest in production, and they were down 17%. So you can see there was really only 3 Bitcoin miners that competed with Bitcoin last year. Core Scientific, TeraWolf, and BitDeer. So those were the top 3 last year. And I think you will see if we go to this year, there's no coincidence that those are the bottom 3. Now, caveat to that, we're 10 days into the year. So 355 to go. So I wouldn't put too much stock in this, but I'll show you what we did this week, and it was ugly. This week was red, but even with that, year to date, the 10 days, and it was really the previous Friday, the Bitcoin miners took off. And they've kind of traded. They had an up day, a down day, an up day, a down day, and it's all kind of washed out. We are down off of our highs, but you can see so far in the last 10 days, Bitcoin is basically sideways, up 1%. 9 of the 12 Bitcoin miners we follow were up between 6 and 15% in the period where Bitcoin was up 1%. That is the kind of trend we want to see over longer periods of time in 2025. Now, I'm not predicting the Bitcoin miners are going to 15x Bitcoin, but I do think we should see Bitcoin miners that, at least 2x Bitcoin's performance in 2025, potentially 3x Bitcoin's performance. And Bitcoin itself, I'm expecting, based on my price target, to basically double. So you can see I am bullish. Now, I will also grant you there may be winners and losers. So, that's why we got to do our own due diligence and, you pick the stocks you believe in. BitDeer had a monster December. They were up 50% in a month where the other 11 Bitcoin miners were all down on the month a lot. So this is just kind of a self-correction from December's price action. But I'm viewing this as a good start. So we'll look at this week to date in the meantime. Okay, so Bitcoin was down 4% this week. And in the United States, we did have one day where the markets were closed. But of course, Bitcoin trades 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for infinity, theoretically. So Bitcoin down 4%. So we had 3 outperform. Riot, which is doing well this year, right? They were they were in last place for at least 10 months last year. They got themselves out of the basement. They finished third to last place, but their performance has been much better in 2025 so far. Iron down 3%, Hut down 3%, all while Bitcoin was down 4%. But even these here, with Bitcoin down 4%, to see a 6 or 7 or 8% move to the downside, you know, that's not unexpected. So I think a lot of this, and 8s and 9s, okay, maybe that's a little worse than we want to see, but it's basically a double of what Bitcoin did. Now, Cypher down 11, TerraWolf down 13, BitDeer down 29. But again, these three were by far number 1, 2, and 3 in the year 2024. So I think things are just evening themselves out a little bit here at the beginning of 2025 based on 2024's performance. So let's see what people are thinking on this price target. Did you vote, George?
I did not vote, Tom.
You did not vote. You want to tell us what your vote is? Am I high? Am I low? Or do you agree? Or are you mystified?
I'm a little mystified, but I was thinking more like 250 personally.
So you think I'm low. Okay, so we got 25% think I'm high at 175,000. We have in the lead, people, 44% agree, you know, plus or minus 175,000. So I'm surprised that we got a lot of agreement there. 31% think that is too low. I did see Edmund, I think, in the comments talking about 200,000. I see Sourmelon Gaming saying 175 is a tad bearish. So maybe he's thinking, and Edmund saying still looking for 200K this year and 300. So Edmund, so I like Edmund's pick a lot better than mine. He's thinking we're going to get to 200,000 this year, but he's thinking we're going to have a little more of an extended bull market, and by the middle of 2026 get to 300,000. So obviously, you know, if I was voting, I would vote for that. That sounds fantastic. So, and I will say Edmund is the one who called MicroStrategy 400% ago. So, and he did it on every stream, members only, and our Friday everybody stream for a year plus. So,
what did I say? It was funny on this members stream. We talked about how political Bitcoin and crypto's become.
Especially right now, but there's no doubt it's a hugely political hot button issue. But here's what I would point out. That speaks to the advancement and maturity of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, because in the past it wasn't important enough to be a political animal, right? It just wasn't even on the radar. Now, you know, Bitcoin's a $2 trillion, now it's just south of that, of a $2 trillion asset. Cryptocurrency is, you know, nearly a bunch more than that. And people are talking about it. Companies are talking about it. Nations are talking about it. The United States is talking about starting a Bitcoin reserve. Other countries already have. I have an article of a new one that is starting this right now, last week or this week. And I think there's a lot more of that to come. So, you know, once something gets important enough, once it's big enough, that's almost one of the boxes you want to check. Are the politicians talking about it? Well, they sure are, big time.
That would be a good poll, Tom. Lawrence said, do a poll about the Silk Road possibly crashing Bitcoin below 80K ?
Okay, let's do this.
A lot of question marks.
So we'll end this poll. So we're pretty split, but 44% agreed, 175,000. We got a few people more bullish, a few people less bullish. See, this is what's happening. George, you might have to giving me a sign. Upgrade.
What is he doing?
Wants me to upgrade the meeting.
Uh-oh. Don't do anything. Leave it the way it is.
Then you just come back in?
If you do that, it's just going to be more obnoxious.
Well, I don't know. I don't understand why this didn't auto update. All right,
Who
we'll see
knows?
what happens. Man, today is technical difficulty day beyond belief. Okay, so we'll do our Silk Road.
And the other thing is, I don't think those guys sleep. I think they're going to wait for the best time to do it, which would probably be this weekend. And remember, full moon Monday. A lot of daylight between now and then.
Okay, so I put it, is the Silk Road Bitcoin sale going to cause a flash crash for Bitcoin? So whether you think it's a flash crash or a longer term crash, if you think it's going to cause a crash, you can say yes. If you don't think so, you can say no. I'm going to go to an article. If I can give me just a second, I'll find this. It's so funny. The sentiment changes on a day-to-day basis where some of the articles I saved 2 days ago to talk about are just totally irrelevant now. People have moved on to a totally different mindset. Okay.
Yeah, if you think about it, that is so true. Somebody said they're going to go to private investors. No one said they had to sell them for retail.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. You know that? Because the government is notorious for, like, for an example, the fence. I don't know if anybody paid attention to that. They were paying like $5 a section for the fence on the border. So I don't know. I'm kind of stupid to think that the government would take and sell it at fair market value.
Well, this article is saying market fears of potential selling pressure from possible Silk Road sale is overblown. This from Van Stratton. And the top line, the biggest case in point here is since September, the market has absorbed over 1 million Bitcoins. I've never seen that plural. Is that correct? Do you guys think that's correct? I think it's 1 million Bitcoin. 1 million Bitcoins, while the price has gone from 60,000 to over 100,000. So their point is, with 1 million Bitcoin coming onto the market, the price has gone up from 60,000 to 100,000. And the Justice Department, the Silk Road Bitcoin is 69,000 and change. Here, 69,370 Bitcoin. So, unconfirmed report that the Department of Justice has the green light to sell 69,370 Bitcoin. And I will tell you, everything that I saw was unconfirmed reports. There was a lot of people reporting on this. It was none of the mainstream media, but it seems like this did happen. This type of event has already happened last year when the German government sold around 50,000 Bitcoin. Long-term holders have sold around 1 million Bitcoin since September to show how big the market is. So their argument is, you know, for the outside world, Bitcoin dropping 10K to 92K in a matter of days could signal the end of the bull run. A caveat to this could be that Bitcoin continues to consolidate below a key psychological $100,000 threshold. Unconfirmed reports suggest that the Department of Justice has been given the authority to liquidate 69,370 Bitcoin. That's $6.5 billion.
So, yeah, but that's $6.5 billion at retail. So my question is, will they ever tell us how much they sold it for? And the answer is no.
Right. Are they going to tell us when they sell it? There was speculation. Binance put out a big article that they already sold it all. And now I've seen several people say that is false, that is incorrect. We took a poll on the channel. It was just about 50-50 as to whether people think they already offloaded these. But I don't think this is going to have a huge impact. We have, I mean, you want to talk about how many Bitcoin did Grayscale get rid of? They got rid of like 500,000 Bitcoin. And, you know, the appetite with the rest of the ETFs was such that it didn't matter. We still had massive inflows. So I think Bitcoin can eat this for lunch. I also, you know, other than, first of all, the government does not move quickly. So this may not get done this week. And then, you know, after the administration changes, it may not even happen at all. So we will see. And if it does, I'm hesitant to believe that they would just dump all of it simultaneously at once. But you never know. And in my mind, if they did that, it would just simply be an act of spite against the cryptocurrency universe. There's no reason to do this, you know, right now or ever. This amount of money is immaterial to the United States government. So those are my thoughts on that. Is the Silk Road Bitcoin sale going to cause a flash crash? 73% think no. 27% think yes, it will cause a flash crash. So I'm looking for, you know, obviously I never root for Bitcoin to go down or the Bitcoin miners to go down, but you know, if we get these weird events where the market has knee-jerk reactions, big knee-jerk reactions, I'm looking at those as buying opportunities. So if we did, you know, George is thinking, now, not just because of Silk Road, but for other reasons, that we're going to have a pullback. And I'll show you, I believe on the members only, we talked about a head and shoulders pattern. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before. I'm going to go to that chart because that pattern is alive and it could happen. And, you know, I think if we complete that pattern and confirm the pattern, that is the key. We have completed the head and shoulders pattern, but we have not yet confirmed it. I'll show you what I mean by that. I'll go to that next so that it's not something way later on. Then you're talking about maybe a $75,000 to $80,000 price target for Bitcoin based on that pattern. Now, again, just because that pattern completes and confirms, there's a lot of other factors. So, you know, there's forces that would maybe make it not go all the way down to its full price target from that. But let's look at my messy version here of so this is it in a nutshell. And I've been calling this, I've been doubting. They've been talking about this. This kind of starts back in the end of November. So they've been talking about this head and shoulders pattern forming for the last month. But to me, this side was very sloppy. The left shoulder, you're supposed to have left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and a neckline. Now, we did hit the neckline. We've retested it many, many times. And when I made this chart, you know, this blue line hadn't happened yet. But then all of a sudden we went red day, red day, red day. And that really completed the pattern. That is, if you count this side, and I think this is a mess. Also, you know, I think we're starting to live in a world where some of these technical things, there's too many other forces at play for them to reach their full potential. But you can see I got a white line here. Sorry, it's giving me notices on my... Let me know if everybody can still see me and hear me. It just gave me a notice. I'm having a problem with my Zoom meeting. I think just ended. So we'll see if we can get George back in. But you can see I got a white line here that, you know, I go down to around 78,500. We looked at an article that, well, let's go to it. Roll through my things here. Okay. Bitcoin's potential head and shoulders pattern points to a sell-off to 75,000. So this is, an individual who wrote this. And you'll see, this is what I object to. They go, so this is the way people like to point out a head and shoulders. But there's a lot of stuff going on over here. I think this side is a mess. So this is not a super clean head and shoulders pattern. We agree the neckline is somewhere here. I think they have it maybe a little lower than I do. So this is what they're talking about. If this happens and we get back down to this next line. So my point was, this isn't confirmed until we break the neckline and have a daily candle close below this neckline. You can see we candle wicked below it yesterday. We candle wicked way below it back on December 5th. Again, on December 30th, we need to have a daily candle close below this neckline. And then if for really high confidence, you want to see a second daily candle open and close below the neckline. And then you start to talk about, if all those things happen, we'll start to talk about price targets on the downside. But I'm still not convinced that's what's going on here. I think sometimes if you look at these, you can see whatever you want to see. So I'm not a believer in this head and shoulders pattern. I'm not a believer in this $75,000 to $80,000 price target. That is my opinion. You guys can let me know what you think. So we'll end this. Silk Road Bitcoin going to cause a crash. So we ended up at 68% say no, 32% say yes. 75 people voted. Thanks for voting. I'm going to end that poll. Phrase this. Just joined us. I'm typing up a poll right now. And this is just a straight up yes and no. So we'll go back and just take a quick look so that you can see again my messy version of this. This is the head. These are the shoulders. We did have 3 red days in a row and go right down to this neckline. Now the article we read had this neckline a little lower at the bottom of this candle wick. So, you could argue where that neckline is, and that would put a little lower price target. So mine shows a 78,000, but you could go as low as 75,000. Again, I don't think this is what's happening. In my opinion, this head and shoulders pattern is a fake out. And now, if we want to go the other way and absolutely confirm that this is invalidated, we've got a line right here. If we get back above this line, this head and shoulders pattern is officially invalidated and doesn't need to be discussed anymore. But that's up at $102,000. So, we're a little bit away from that, but it's not that far. We're not that far away. If I go from the top of where we were today, that would be 7% move to the upside to invalidate this pattern, and everybody can stop talking about. And Harrison is saying charts are just whatever you want to see. So I believe a lot of that. And that's why I do not solely trade off a technical analysis. I do look at a lot of it and do it and see if there's short-term trends. And then I just see how they, it's not it's not my first thing I look at. It's not my second thing I look at. And I try to look at many different things because for this bearish pattern that we see is out here, if you look, you'll find a bullish pattern out there somewhere else. So I agree, Harrison. You got to take these with a grain of salt. And, you know, then when they work out, you can, oh, yeah, see, I was right. Well, how about the times they don't work out? We're at 95 likes. If you guys could do us a favor and hit the like button, much appreciated. I'm going to see if I can get George. Oh, I don't know what I would have to do that. I might have lost George. I don't think I can go to the tech support well a fourth time. Larry's saying if Mara goes to 8, I'm loading up. So I don't see Mara pulling back that much. That would be shocking to me. But yes, if Bitcoin pulls back to, so Harrison's saying if Bitcoin pulls back to 75K, then Mara will be $8. So I'm with you. If I'm with Larry, if we see Marathon at $8 and the other Bitcoin miners accordingly, I thought I was done investing in Bitcoin miners 6 months ago. And I did take a big break as we were going sideways for a long time. But some buying opportunities have presented themselves. And if we have another flash crash, me personally, I will view that as a gigantic buying opportunity. So we'll see what happens. I don't think any of that's going to happen. George did think, he does think we're going to get into the 80s, the low 80s. Just briefly. And then have a big run. Okay, let's take a look at what the miners did. All the December reports are out. The monthly operational reports are out. So I want to show, I did a little summary. I do a much deeper dive and do a full video on this later in the month. But let's take a quick look at what went on in December. Because there were some changes, some of which we talked about on the channel before this happened. We saw them coming. Harrison thinks that the miners are dead money. So I know there's people out there that have abandoned ship on the Bitcoin miners. So Harrison, you're not alone. I believe, and he's saying he'd load up on MicroStrategy instead. And so, we have a lot of our viewers and members that are in MicroStrategy. Some combination of Bitcoin, either directly into Bitcoin or into the Bitcoin ETFs, into MicroStrategy, into the Bitcoin miners. Those are your most direct ways to play Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin miners are probably the most volatile out of all of those. And, just when you think that they're dead, they can do some pretty wild things. And they did so in the last bull market. From here for the next 6 months was the big run in the Bitcoin miners. So we'll see. These things tend to be, not identical. So, but we do have a pattern that has been similar over the halving cycle for thus far. So we'll see if it continues or if it breaks down this time. Christian saying not dead money. If you buy, you might get a decent short-term swing before the next wave of dilution. So that's another way to play these is definitely, if you trade the swings on these, let's just go to one. Go to Marathon since we were talking about Marathon going down to $8. So this is the 1-day chart for Marathon. So you can see if you played the swings on this, if you were perfect starting on December 27th, you could have sold at 30 bought at 15, sold at 34, bought at 14, sold at just under 27. No, actually 27, sold at 13, right? Bought at these are doubles, right? You could, if you were perfect, and obviously, none of us have a crystal ball and can get this perfect, but a lot of people caught a lot of part of these swing trades, and they're 100% moves. So, yes, for some people, I don't do that. I just dollar cost average in when we get dips, and I think these are going to bigger, better, higher places. That's my opinion. So I'm holding them, and we'll see how it plays out. Right? 2024 did not play out as I planned it. I did not think that there would be 6 Bitcoin miners down on the year in a year where the ETFs were approved. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. It was up 122% on the year. And Robert Anderson is saying, debatable how much more at the market dilution some of them will do. I think shares will be used in acquisitions, hopefully not as ATMs. So, and there's a couple of things going on. We've also seen a fundamental switch. We had 6 different Bitcoin miners in a 10-day period do convertible debt instead of an at-the-market offering. Marathon did I believe $2 billion, 2 separate offerings of convertible debt at 0% interest. The first one due in 2030, the second one due in 2031. So, they got their hands on $2 billion for 0% interest for the next, 6 or 7 years. And with that, they went out and bought Bitcoin. They have almost 45,000, I'm sure by now over 45,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have the second largest amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet of any publicly traded company in the world. I think we all know MicroStrategy's first. Sour Melon Gaming said, I miss George. I know. I don't know how to get him back on this thing. I can take a 20-second break and see if it can happen. You guys want me to try to get George back on? I'll be back in 20 seconds. So hold that thought. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That was quick. So I am going to just take 30 seconds here and try to get George back into the mix. Pardon the delay. 10 seconds from done. Okay. All right. We are back. Sent George a message. I will let him know that. Okay. So let's get back into it. Sourmelon Gaming is saying Sebastian is losing faith on miners. He said on his stream last night they should have been running by now. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I'm not losing faith. I will say I agree. I thought they would have had a part of their run by now. They should have started running. I thought I thought the Bitcoin miners would be ahead of where they are, but that is a big part of the game. The big money knows what our expectation is. And, they take that into account when moving these around. Remember, these are all very small companies from a market cap standpoint. So the more people, the more retail investors they can get to buy high and sell low, the longer they'll bring the pain. And this has been longer than I expected, but I'm still looking at these companies. And here's my counterpoint to that. You're going to get, and it's going to be a while, but the quarter ended December 31st, 2024. For some people, for some of the Bitcoin miners, that was their year end. For some of the Bitcoin miners, they have a non-calendar year end. But in that quarter, we're going to get those financials in the coming months. And I think you're going to see some financials where these companies just, they just crush it. I think you're going to see a lot of these companies be, number one, cash flow positive, number two, positive EBITDA, and number three, positive gap. They're going to have earnings per share. And then I think you're going to see 3 more quarters in a row after that where that's true. So I think when they run that gauntlet, that is when they're going to get their big run. We ran into the halving. The network has gotten... Welcome back, George.
Keep going. I'm listening.
All right. Well, people were missing you, so we got you back.
I want to make Marathon a short squeeze. How many people are shorting it right now? There's too many shares.
There's a lot of shares, and there's, all these companies are shorted to a certain extent. And you can see, look, Marathon's just been bouncing around like a yo-yo, and they're not right where they're sitting. They're not out of line with what they've been doing for the last year. Now, what's out of line is they got 45,000 Bitcoin. They got 53 exahash. They're mining 900 Bitcoin a month, and their stock isn't moving. So, to that regard, I do feel like we are being punished as holders of Bitcoin miners. But I do think, it's going to just be too hard. When, what if Marathon makes $1 billion in Q4 2024, and those financials come out in a couple of months? I just don't think the market's going to look at that company and have it at $17 or $20. I think you're going to see it take out that. We got up to $34 last February. That's a double from here. And I think once the market's digested this next round of financial statements, conversely, the round of financial statements we just got for the period ended September 30th, 2024, that was the first full period after the halving. Bitcoin had not made its big run up to 90 or 100,000 yet. And that was the worst quarter for all these Bitcoin miners from a financial statement standpoint. So you're going to go from the third quarter being the worst quarter they've had in a long time to the fourth quarter for a lot of them being the best quarter they've ever had. And I just think that's going to make a difference.
So, Tom, how many companies a year make $1 billion?
Not a lot. Right? I mean,
I know.
There's not a lot of companies and that's not even in a year. That's going to be in the quarter. And
I know.
and I'm not saying, we'll see where the numbers come out at. Maybe it's $700 million, maybe it's whatever it is. And then it's going to be the next quarter and the next quarter. And if Bitcoin, we all just voted at the beginning of this stream, most people agree we're going to be maybe somewhere 150, 175,000, 200,000. We have people that think Bitcoin's going higher than that. So, Marathon's got, by the end of this year, they could easily have 100,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And, if Bitcoin pulls a double from here, forget their 3 exahash of operations that's running, mining, 900 or 1,000 Bitcoin a month. So, and I'm singling out Marathon because it was mentioned in the chat, but the same, in my mind, the same is true for Cleanspark. The same is true for Riot. Now, we do have other companies that don't hodl Bitcoin. So, there's going to be nuances here. How do those companies do? A company like Iron, which, I happen to hold Iron, not financial advice. They're not hodling their Bitcoin, but their energy cost per Bitcoin, according to their December report, was $22,800. Now, Bitcoin was averaged in the 90,000s for the month. So you do the gross profit on that, right? Even though they're not holding any of that Bitcoin, they were hugely profitable in that month. So as more information comes out, they're giving us, I think this is the last beatdown. And that's not the first time I've said that. So, I understand. This has gone on much longer than I expected. But you've seen MicroStrategy, who has the same, Marathon has adopted the MicroStrategy, and you've seen a total, I think, of 6 Bitcoin miners in a very short window of time switch from at-the-market offerings. Cleanspark closed out their at-the-market offering. They raised, I think, $600 million of convertible debt at 0% interest, and they straight up said, we're not starting another at-the-market offering. And they didn't mean never. They mean in their short-term plans, they have the capital resources to get to their target of 50 exahash, and they don't need to raise any more money to do that. Now, I think they've alluded to the fact that they may adjust their target from 50 exahash to 63 exahash, and they may raise a little money to try to get there. But to me, that would all be good news, right? I mean, these companies, some of these companies have breakaway velocity at this point. At 40, 50, 60 exahash, these are monsters. And they're outpacing the Bitcoin network. And that's the key. If their growth is substantially outpacing the growth of the Bitcoin network, which slowed down a lot, it grew about 100% in 2023. I think the Bitcoin hash rate grew about 54% in 2024. We'll see what 2025 brings. And a lot of the hash rate that's coming online is from these companies. So as that should theoretically increase their percent of the total network. And Gary's saying, Mara mining sector has never in their history turned a quarterly profit. Well, they will this quarter.
First time for anything.
Right. I mean, I think we know, and if for no other reason than the change in account, right, the FASB rules, and that's one of the reasons a lot of these companies have shown losses over time. Bitcoin was treated as an intangible asset, which basically has the least favorable accounting method, you got to write it down when it goes down, and you don't write it back up when it goes up. So it stays at whatever, however low Bitcoin got in the crypto winter. That's where everybody had to sit with Bitcoin on their balance sheet, even though we all knew that it was worth double that or triple that or quadruple that as time went on, right? So now they're going to get to account for that, and they're going to be profitable. And they're efficient. They reported for the first time ever, they reported their joules per terahash, and I'll go to their report because it's their fleet of over 50 exahash is at 20 joules per terahash. So that's a very efficient fleet. Now, all these companies are trying to get under 20, head towards 15. Iron says they're already there. BitDeer says they're going to get way below, below 10 next year. So we'll see. But, the network was at 40 joules per terahash a year ago or a year and a half ago. So these are much more efficient than the network, than the entire Bitcoin network. And, their cost per coin, they're going to make money. Now, some of the other companies were a little more crystal clear. You'll see, this is Iron's monthly update. They straight up said, our electricity cost per Bitcoin is $22,799. Their average revenue per Bitcoin was $98,000. So let's just do a little quick math. So they're at a 77% gross profit margin. And in real dollars, they're making close to, every time they mine a Bitcoin, they're making somewhere around $74,000 a Bitcoin. And they got their fleet to 31 exahash. And the other thing was, you can see in November, so this is the company that I thought had the best December monthly operational report. There were 3 companies I thought had standout. This is the one that I thought was the best. They went from 379 Bitcoin to 529 Bitcoin. Their average operational hash rate went from 19.7 to 28.1. Their total exahash online at the year end was 31 exahash. So these guys this is exactly what they said they were going to do. In fact, at the beginning of the year, they note here, their original target at the beginning of 2024 is they hope to get to 20 exahash by the end of 2024. Well, they made revisions to that throughout the year. One big jump to 30 and then a jump to 31. But the thing is, they got there in a timely manner, exactly as they said they would. And as a result, they mined 529 Bitcoin. So if we go back to where I finally said I was going to go a long time ago, if we look at the results for the month of December, if I highlight Iron here, you'll see they mined 529 Bitcoin. They passed Riot. Riot mined 516 Bitcoin. And to put it in perspective, that was 4% increase for Riot. I thought Riot had a good monthly operational update, but Iron still passed them. And in the previous month, Riot was mining more than 100 Bitcoin than Iron. So this was a 40% jump. Now, they're not going to get that. Obviously, this was their big jump. But they're looking to get to 50 exahash in the first half of 2025. So you're going to see, they added 3 exahash if we look over here from November to December. They added 7 exahash between October and November. You're going to see they want to add 19 more exahash in the next 6 months. So there's a lot more growth to come. Iron's in a solid 3rd place. I think you're going to see that for at least the first 6 months of the year, if not the entire year of 2025, Iron will be in 3rd place for the number of Bitcoin that they mine. So I think Marathon's locked themselves into 1st place. And this doesn't mean they're the best company. So I understand, remember, there's a lot of different variables. These 12 companies differ in many ways. But when we look at this one number, these are Bitcoin mining companies. This is how much Bitcoin they're mining. Marathon's, in all likelihood, unless something happens, Marathon's going to continue to stay in 1st place for the year. I think Cleanspark will continue to stay in second place for the year, and I think Iron just jumped Riot into third place, and I think they'll hold that the rest of the year. Now, it's a long year. Lots of things can happen. Lots of things can change. But to me, I think those are locked in. I think Riot's probably locked in at 4. And then you have, at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even Hive has some growth plans. Their growth plans are not going to get them anywhere near these top 4 companies. But this next group, I think, will be the interesting group to watch. Bitfarms, Bitdeer, Cypher, TerraWolf, Hive, Hut. Hut put out some numbers in their monthly operational report that indicate they may move back into Bitcoin mining in a big way, because you can see they are now in 11th place. They mined 89 Bitcoin. Their Bitcoin mining operations have been all but left alone and abandoned. They haven't added to their fleet in years, but they're about to. They've made some commitments, and they have some options on commitments past that. So should we just jump and take a quick look? Because they talk about this. Let's see. This project creates a path, so I'll highlight this. This project creates a path to approximately 24 exahash of self-mining hash rate with an average fleet efficiency of 15.7 joules per terahash as early as Q2 2025, assuming we exercise our purchase option for hosted machines at that site. Now, that is a gigantic purchase option. So they will be, if they do that, they're going to have to raise a lot of money. But, then they're all of a sudden, instead of being at 5.5 exahash, they're going to be at 24 exahash with 15.7 joules per terahash efficiency. That's going to put them back in the mix, right? So that's why I'm saying this group down here, these 5 or 6 or 7 Bitcoin miners, it will be very interesting. I think there's going to be big shakeups during the year, moving up and down this list on the second half of the list. The first 4 are locked in. Core Scientific, I think, will continue to drop. Some of these companies below, I think, will pass Core Scientific's Bitcoin mining operations in 2025. And that is mostly because they're leaving their Bitcoin mining operations alone, and they're basically focusing on AI. In fact, they took some of their data center capacity and moved it over from Bitcoin mining to AI. And AI is now a huge part of Core Scientific. But with 19 exahash, Bitcoin is still a big part of what they do too, right? Maybe they'll be in 6th or 7th or 8th place. I don't know, by the end of the year. They were, to put it in perspective, for 2 full years, every single month for 2 years in a row, Core Scientific was number 1 on this list, and it wasn't even close. So you can see they've switched gears. They've gone from 1 to 5, and I think they're probably going to go from 5 to 7 or 8 or 9. We'll see what happens. This is the all-time record for technical difficulties. I blame myself. Just a second. Okay. Hey, I fixed one thing on my own.
What'd you do?
My chat disappeared, and I got it back.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, it was seamless to you. All right. Okay, so let's keep going down this list. We're Marathon 890 Bitcoin in December. That was down 2%, but they did add 7 exahash. They are now at 53.2 exahash. So Why were they down 2%? They say right in their monthly operational report, the bottom line was because they have their own mining pool, luck is a bigger factor for Marathon because they don't get to be a bigger, the bigger the pool is, the less luck becomes part of the equation. And you guys are probably somewhat familiar to, and some of you may be extremely familiar with how, the actual awards are given. And luck is an absolute factor. So, as you scale up your pool, the luck should start to even out more and more. But they've had months where they were very lucky. This looks like a month where they were a little bit unlucky. But even with that, they still mined, more than 200 Bitcoin than the next closest Bitcoin miner. So Marathon is in a league of their own. And again, I'm not saying they're the best Bitcoin miner, but they have the most Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They have the most exahash. They mine the most Bitcoin per month. They're the big Bitcoin miner. Cleanspark's the second biggest. You can see they've got a pretty nice gap between themselves and Riot and Iron, and I think they're going to be able to maintain that. Cleanspark's been a very efficient miner as far as the number of Bitcoin they get per exahash. So you can see they added 5 exahash in December. So, the standouts in December from fleet growth were Marathon added 7 exahash, Cleanspark added 5.4 exahash, and Iron added 3 exahash. The other thing that happened to Iron, why they popped 40%, is Iron added 7 exahash in the previous month, but the vast majority of that was at the very end of the month. So November didn't get the benefit of that exahash. December got 100% of the benefit of that. So you can see there were big jumps. The standouts on this list, you'll see I have in yellow. Iron was up 40%. Cypher was up 16%, and they don't really talk about what's going on. They added 1.5 exahash. They're now at 13.5 exahash. So, that puts them in exahash. That puts them ahead of BitDeer. It puts them ahead of Bitfarms. And they're already ahead of these. And they also jump BitDeer and Bitfarms in the number of Bitcoin they mine. So this 16% increase puts Cypher from number 9 as far as the number of Bitcoin mined to number 6. And they've been moving in that direction. 2 months ago, they were 9. Last month, they moved up, and now I'll reorganize these. They're now in 6th place. And they have big growth plans in 2025. TeraWolf, 37% increase. But there is something, a caveat to that. I want to point out something about TeraWolf. So I do think it's good news. In the last 2 months, you'll see TeraWolf was trending in the wrong direction. In October, they mined 15% less Bitcoin than September. In November, they mined 23% less than that. So this was trending in the wrong direction fast. They're still not back to what they were mining in September. But they did sell a part of their business. They've reorganized what they're doing. And, they sold some of their mining. So their numbers went down. So we called the bottom on this just, based on the information that we had given, and we knew there'd be a big jump this month. But I want to go to the report because there was a big jump in something else that was disturbing to me. And I feel like they really didn't address it. And I think if you're going to throw this kind of information out there, I applaud them for the transparency, but maybe a little follow-up on it. If you look at what they did, so November, 115 Bitcoin mined. In December, 158 Bitcoin mined. In November, $41,000 cost per Bitcoin. That was up a little bit. They've been doing about 35,000. So, I didn't blink too much from 35 to 41. But in December, their cost per Bitcoin jumped to 62,800. Remember, we just looked at Iron, which is at 22,800. Energy cost per Bitcoin. So I don't know if December's an anomaly, and I don't know because they don't tell me. They do say, due to winter, there's higher energy costs. So is that going to be January and February and March? I think I feel like they need to give us in next month's operation report. We need to see one of two things. Either that comes back down to normal, you know, even if it dropped to 45,000, that would start to make sense to me. But if it's going to stay up at this number, I think they need to tell us, hey, you know, we've got 3, 4, 5 months out of the year where it's going to cost us a lot of money to mine Bitcoin. I do think TeraWulf stock trades more on the hope of high performance computing and AI than on the reality of their Bitcoin mining, because you can see if it was just straight on Bitcoin mining, TeraWulf is mined 158 Bitcoin. So that was more than BitDeer. So I guess that would put them in not 9th place, but they would move up to 8th place. But that's 8th place, right? And they've got a market cap that exceeds Cypher, and they've got a market cap that's triple Bitfarms, and Bitfarms mined 211 Bitcoin, and TeraWulf mined 158. Oh, by the way, at almost $63,000 electricity cost per Bitcoin. So the good news is they're up 37%. This trend has ended. The downward trend has ended. They're now mining more Bitcoin, but let's see some more info on this, you know, price per Bitcoin, because that cost is, in my mind, that is excessive. I would guess that it's the highest out of the 12 on this sheet. It's certainly the highest out of the 6 or 7 that have been, you know, making big Marathon, Cleanspark, Riot, Iron. Bitfarms has made big updates to their fleet. They missed their target by a lot, but it's important to note their fleet got significantly more efficient. They swapped out a lot of machines and increased their efficiency significantly, as did Hive. Even though Hive's way down here in 10th place, they swapped out almost every machine in their fleet. And they got themselves down, I think, to 22 joules per terahash. So again, the bottom half of this list, I think, is going to get really interesting. We're going to see a lot of change throughout the year. And then I think this top half of this list is going to settle in.
Pete is still in the hospital, Tom.
Oh.
Don't fast. That's why I think he's in the hospital, personally.
MicroStrategy to $3,650 said, Tom, Wolf reports all-in costs. Well, they say, I don't know that that's true, because they say power cost. So it's possible, you know, there's 2 or 3 components to the power cost. What the main, there's one main component, and then there's some other components. So it may not be exactly apples to apples, but there's a big discrepancy here. Right, this is not including depreciation. This is just, they say, power cost. So there is a difference between just your electricity cost and your total power cost. So, you know, that may account for a little bit of this, but you can see the jump. I mean, you don't even have to try and figure it out. You can see they went from 35,000 in in October to 41,000 in November to 63,000 in December. So they themselves jumped. Their cost did jump dramatically.
Somebody needs to turn the light switches off at night.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. 60. Can you imagine getting that bill?
So let's get rid of this poll. I'm going to put a new poll up. Do we believe in the head and shoulders pattern? Almost 80-20. We do not believe in that. I don't believe in it. But, you know, everybody's talking about it. So we had to bring it up. So we'll end that poll. And I'm going to start a new poll, because a couple of people have brought this up. So let's do this. So this goes back to what Edmund talked about, and then I think Lawrence recommended this poll. So thank you guys. Are we going to have an extended cycle? Are we going to have an extended bull market cycle? So typically, if we followed what's happened in the previous, since Bitcoin came into existence, somewhere in the second or third quarter of 2025 would be the peak of the bull market this time. So, obviously there's no guarantee that all these things are going to act identically. There's a lot of new forces at work in the Bitcoin universe. You've got companies, nation states, you've got ETFs, BlackRock, you got BlackRock having the fastest growing ETF in the history of ETFs is their Bitcoin ETF. You've got Fidelity with a monstrously huge Bitcoin ETF. You've got a bunch of ETFs. So there's a lot of adoption coming. We've got a change in administration who, I think people unanimously think this administration in the United States will be a lot more Bitcoin and cryptocurrency friendly than the previous one. The United States and several other countries, including Russia, China, and a lot of smaller countries that are actually doing it, are talking about maybe having Bitcoin reserves. So, if you start to have companies buying Bitcoin, countries buying Bitcoin, there's a lot of potential catalysts out there ahead for Bitcoin that may make this cycle look a little bit different than previous cycles. Maybe it's going to extend it out longer. Maybe it's going to make it run higher, or maybe it's going to smooth things out over a much longer period of time. I don't know. Obviously. George, you're going to run out in a few minutes, so we're close enough where we'll just leave it be when you run out. After the stream is done, I will fix that so that doesn't happen again.
What happened?
The Zoom didn't auto renew, so it's limiting the meeting and kicking you out. So I just got to go in and fix that. But I can't do it while we're on the stream. Midway said Iron might even have a chance to pass Cleanspark in Bitcoin production on certain months. So both Cleanspark and Iron are targeting 50 exahash by June 30th. So that's a fair point, Midway. And I'll be interested to see. I think Cleanspark's got a lead on them. I feel like they're going to maintain that lead, but I would certainly not be shocked if Iron, caught Cleanspark, and maybe, sometimes Cleanspark was in second, sometimes Iron was in second. That's not unrealistic. Gecko Gary, welcome to the Talkin' Investing Squad. Thank you very much for joining. There's a bunch of videos that you have access to now that you can check out. In addition to that, you can join us on Tuesdays after the market closes. We do a members-only live stream where we talk a little bit more openly about broader topics and, more some things that maybe don't fly on the public stream. So it's a little more of an open forum, I guess, is what I would say.
It is funny, the difference between the streams.
It's a big difference. A couple of people noted it last stream. This is a much more enjoyable. But anyway, thank you very much for joining. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. MicroStrategy to 3650 saying it's too early to guess. That would have been his answer to the poll. So far we got 28 votes. So everybody can do two things if they would be so kind. We're at 128 likes. Thank you, everybody. We got past our 100. Now we're shooting for our 200. So if you would consider smashing the like button, that is a huge help to the stream and the channel. And the other thing you can do is vote in the poll. The poll is, are we going to have an extended bull market this cycle? In other words, is it going to go into 2026 or maybe even beyond 2026? Robert Anderson said, Cleanspark, who's a member, thank you for being a member, Robert. Cleanspark has alluded to having hundreds of more megawatts available at currently owned sites. Do they need another site? So this is what I've been kind of gleaning from what they said on their conference call and what they've put in their press releases. It looks to me like I think they have a path to 63 exahash. And they may need to add some infrastructure to get there. They have said they have all the infrastructure to get to 50. I think they have infrastructure to get well beyond 50. I'm not sure they have it to get all the way to 63. But I think you're going to see them, and again, this is just me. They have never said these exact words. But I think you're going to see them change that target to, or at least tell us when they plan on getting to 63 exahash, which is one of the reasons I think they'll stay a little bit ahead of Iron. But guess what? Last year, Iron told us they were going to get to 20 exahash, and they got to 31. So, you know, they could surprise us as well. Iron, to me, was the gigantic surprise of 2024. They came out swinging. They had big goals. They were hitting their goals, and then they raised their goals, not a little, a lot, and they hit all of those. So I feel like I was lucky. There was some good buying opportunities. There was a lot of dips to get back in there because, you know, at one point a couple of years ago, near the bottom, they were about a $250 million market cap, and they announced a $500 million at the market offering. That had me concerned, right? And we all, 2 years ago in the crypto winter, we were all looking at all this stuff very differently than we look at it today. So that was concerning to me. I thought the stock was going to take a hit. It did take a short-term hit. I got out of it. I got back in. I don't usually do that. I usually just buy and hold and dollar cost average in. But I didn't know. They didn't have a track record yet. But now they do have a proven track record of doing what they say they're going to do. So I have a high level of confidence, personally, in Iron. And Cleanspark's another company that has done what they said they were going to do. They've been very aggressive. They've done what they said they were going to do. I think that Marathon's a company that had to repair their reputation. They didn't do what they said they were going to do all of 2022. 2022 was a train wreck for them. But they now are back on track, and I think at this point have earned the fact that, you know, I think now they're pretty much doing what they're telling us they're going to do. And more than that, they're not even really giving targets anymore. They're just growing every month. And I think that will continue. Yes, and Sour Melon Gaming is saying Iron's going to be 50 exahash by mid-year, and Cleanspark has that same goal to be 50 exahash by mid-year. Marathon's already 53 exahash, and there's nobody else whose goal is to be even close to 50 exahash. So Riot, you know, they are one of the big Bitcoin miners, and their long-term path, they lay out a path to 100 exahash. But the first half of 2025, there's not going to be a lot of growth. They've already told us that. So I think they're looking to get to 35 exahash or something to that effect. Let's see if it's in their monthly report or not. I'm not sure if they tell us. So you can see deployed hash rate, Riot's at 31. Operational was 27.4. This keeps getting substantially better, right? 27.4 out of 31.5 for them. That ratio of uptime is spectacular for Riot. Riot has lagged. That was one of my big complaints with Riot. They're fixing that. So that continues to trend in the right direction. I'm just going to see if they... Okay, so Q1 of 2025, 34.5 exahash. Q2 of 2025, 37 exahash. So whereas Iron and Cleanspark plan to be at 50 exahash, they plan to be at 37 exahash. And then you'll see Q3 is not much different, 38.4 exahash. So there's a little bit of a timeout happening here with Riot as they build out some of the rest of their infrastructure. But then they talk about jumping to 46 by the end of the year, 65 by the end of, next year, and then, 100 somewhere out in the future. So Riot will remain one of the large Bitcoin mining companies, in my opinion. They look like they have an extremely strong, healthy balance sheet. They now have over 17,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Let's see if we can find that number. Okay, 17,722 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They bought, so they're another one. They raised $500 million. Can't remember what the exact number was. And they went out and bought 5,000 Bitcoin. So, we've got certain companies that aren't hodling at all. We've got certain companies that are hodling what they mine. And we have Riot and Marathon that are hodling everything they mine. And they're issuing debt to buy more Bitcoin, the MicroStrategy formula. And I think they looked at MicroStrategy and said, listen, MicroStrategy outperformed. MicroStrategy's stock was outperformed the best Bitcoin mining stock in 2024 by double. So I think they're looking at that saying, you know what? Let's do that too and see how it goes. So, obviously, for it to go well, Bitcoin's going to have to go up in price, right? We've talked about some pretty high price targets. If Bitcoin gets to 150 or 175 or whatever the case may be, sorry, we just lost George. That is my fault. I will make sure that doesn't happen next week. Way. So that's why I say we've got 12 companies and we've got 12 very different companies. And the other thing that I would point out, we'll go back to this chart just to finish, because we didn't finish up. We were talking about how TeraWolf was up 37%. BitDigital was down 28%. They were already in dead, solid last place. Now, understand, there are many other publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies. We chose to pare our list down to 12 on this channel. We were doing 19. There's even more than that. But the other ones at this point are so much smaller. They're micro cap, nano cap stocks. Most of the, 8 of the stocks on this list are 100 times bigger than the number 13 sized Bitcoin mining stock. So we kind of cut it off there. I'm looking at BitDigital going, they're now mining 32 Bitcoin. They improved their fleet by exactly 0 for the entire year in 2025. They have 2.5 exahash. And at the beginning of the year and for several months, they were telling us they're targeting 6 exahash for 2024. Well, later in the year, they said, nope, that's not going to happen. They stayed at 2.5 exahash. I think they have shifted their direction to high performance computing / AI. That's now catching up to being, close to half of what they do. And I just, we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll make an announcement and surprise me, but it seems like maybe they're just going to go that way, and that's going to be who they are and what they do. So at some point, we got to consider whether or not we want to keep looking at what BitDigital is doing, looking at this Bitcoin miner list, at mining 32 Bitcoin. It's a third the next lowest number. And Hut's number is going to go up dramatically. We know they have growth plans. We know Hive has big growth plans. Wolf has growth plans. Cypher has growth plans. BitDeer, Bitfarms. The only two that don't have growth plans are Core Scientific and BitDigital. So we'll see what happens. We're certainly not taking Core Scientific off the list because even if they don't grow, they're already, one of the bigger Bitcoin miners. Yeah, we still do have some Bitcoin miners that are doing no hodl, but we have a bunch that are starting to hodl. And I'll tell you, it's one of the things. So I'll show you the last chart that the one that I'm really following. So if I go to, this is somebody recommended that I put this chart together, and I'm glad they did. I think it's really worth, and it's not the one that's on screen. I'm about to switch to it. This is from the cycle low for each Bitcoin miner until today, what their performance is for Bitcoin and the 12 Bitcoin miners. So if I look at that, and basically to put it in perspective, for most of the Bitcoin miners, their crypto winter low was in December of 2022. So what we're looking at is the combination of 2023 and 2024 put together. And that is this chart. So when I look at this chart, that's those 2 years combined. That is from the absolute low of the crypto winter until right now. Bitcoin's up 512% from the bottom of crypto winter. You're going to see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. BitDeer, BitDigital, Hut, Cleanspark, Marathon are hanging right around that number. You know, they're very close to on par with what Bitcoin is doing. Now, that's not what we want from our Bitcoin miners. If we're going to take more risk and have more volatility, we want to outperform Bitcoin. That's the only point of holding a Bitcoin miner instead of Bitcoin is that you hope they're going to outperform Bitcoin. So even these 5 right here, to me, represent underperformance, and they have some catching up to do. Then you get to Bitfarms. They're up 326% versus 512% on Bitcoin. Now, there's some reasons for that. We know there was a hostile takeover bid. They fired their CEO. They did not hit their growth target. So there was some specific reasons that they lagged behind, but they're significantly behind. So I've been saying for several months, I think it's going to end up being just like Marathon. It's going to end up being a better late than never scenario for Bitfarms. I do think they're going to get to those goals. They just missed it on the timing, and it was a big miss, and they have a lot of other drama and chaos. Riot, up 269%. You know, that's half of what Bitcoin has done. It should be double what Bitcoin's done. So, you know, is Riot going to catch up? Or do you think they're failing as a company and they deserve to be lagging Bitcoin? And then in dead last place is Hive. They're up 124% from their bottom and versus 512%. And to me, Hive has done a lot of good things. They've swapped out most of their existing machines. They have a big order in for new machines. They've announced they're moving their headquarters to the United States because there's a much larger pool of money, you know, in the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, etc. So they think they'll get a lot more institutional adoption as a function of that. Hut already did that last year. I believe that Bitfarms will join those two in doing that. And while we're at it, there's another company, BitDigital, just completes transformation from foreign private issuer status to domestic filer status. So I think they were out of Singapore. Their headquarters has been in New York for a while. They had all of their machines in China at one point. Now, obviously, they have none of their machines there. They're focused on the United States, and now they've become a U.S. company. So you've got Hut that's done that. You've got Hive that's announced they're going to do it. You've got BitDigital that's done it. I think you're going to have Bitfarms in 2025 make that announcement. That's just my opinion. They have not said that, but what they have done is focused in their investor presentation, in their monthly operational reports. They continue to talk more and more about how the concentration of their Bitcoin mining efforts is moving to the United States, away from Canada to the United States. They're also in Paraguay. They're in Argentina. Neither of those places is panning out exactly as expected, particularly Argentina. And they're focusing, I think they said they were going to have 66% of their operations in the United States by the end of 2025. So, you know, those talking points lead me to believe that as all the other companies are doing this, they will change their domicile to the United States, in my opinion, this year. And these companies do so obviously in hopes that that will help their stock, that will help institutional adoption. The other thing that Bitfarms has to do is get over $5. Right? They're not even close to that right now. And there's a lot of institutions that just, period, they don't own stocks under $5. So there's a couple of things that they can do that I think can be done in 2025. Get themselves to the United States, get themselves over $5 a share. I don't think they need to do any kind of reverse stock split or anything. Just get if they get their act together and get their exahash to where it's supposed to be, I think they'll get there. That's my opinion. Are we going to have an extended bull market this cycle? 58% say yes, flipping back and forth. 57 to 43. So that's pretty close. That's leaning towards the 50-50. But it's interesting that more people think that we're going to have an elongated, extended cycle. And, that goes to what one of our members, Edmund, said earlier, where he thinks, our real high is going to be in 2026. And his guess was 300,000 for Bitcoin. And he's not alone. I've seen a lot of talking heads talk about Bitcoin at 225,000. I've seen people talk about 300,000. I've seen people talk about 500,000. That seems like crazy talk in my opinion, but with cryptocurrency, we can't be surprised at whatever happens. Sour Mountain Gaming, I don't see Bitfarms going over $5. They have diluted way too much. So they have done a lot of dilution, but their market cap is dramatic. Let me show you why I do think they can get there. And 5 is a stretch. It will be tough. But I think there's a lot of upside because if you look at Bitfarms, their market cap is $760 million. So I'm going to go back to TeraWulf. Now remember, Bitfarms has more exahash, mines more Bitcoin, and for a cheaper cost than TeraWulf. TeraWulf's a $2 billion market cap. So, they're 2.5 times the market cap. And a lot of that, I think, is the AI component. But Bitfarms has also talked about they are adding high performance. They already have a test center. They're adding high performance computing and AI into the mix as well. So if you look at TeraWulf, if you look at Cypher, which they're mining just about the same amount as, they have just about the same amount of exahash, they're more than double the market cap. If you look at BitDeer, BitDeer has a $3.5 billion market cap. Now, if we go back and look at this chart, BitDeer mined 145 Bitcoin, Bitfarms mined 211 Bitcoin. If you look at their balance sheets, now, their businesses are different. BitDeer has 3 different revenue streams. They do self-mine Bitcoin, they host Bitcoin, they do high-performance computing. So I understand all these companies are not identical, but I don't think that BitDeer deserves to have 4 or 5 times the market cap that Bitfarms has. And I think it's because Bitfarms is marked down based on, these comments that Sour Mountain Gaming talked about. In addition to dilution, he said they've just created themselves too much drama. So, and yes, Iron is in the US as well. That's a good point. So we've seen a lot of companies and a lot of them have talked about, there's 2 big reasons wherever you are in the world. And I know we have viewers from all over the world. That's the beauty of the internet. This is in the United States. It's where the capital is. The markets here are multiples bigger than the next closest size market. So these companies want to move to where the money is, right? It just makes sense. It's in addition to that, they're now looking at maybe getting some clarity and some rules and regulations and maybe a little more Bitcoin friendly environment in the United States. Now, that could change every 4 years, right? We elect a president and, you know, this one may be Bitcoin friendly. The next one may not. So I will end this poll. So that's mostly what I had for you. We're past our normal time. I'll save a few items for next week, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. Hopefully you guys had a good week. Let's just take a look at where Bitcoin is. So Bitcoin's kind of steady, holding at around 94,700. And I think one of the key things I'll be looking at this weekend is there's a very, very strong line of support at 92,000. I do think it's important on the daily candles that we hold $92,000. I think if we can do that, then eventually the next move's to the upside. If we lose that, then we'll have to start looking at some downside scenarios, in my opinion. So that's are the thoughts I will leave you with. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Be safe, be happy, and we will see the members next Tuesday on the members only live stream. And hopefully we'll see all you guys back on next Friday for the everybody live stream. Thanks a lot.